Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown and welcome to What's Next for Me After Caregiving Ends. We're going to look at some possibilities for you. I'm going to share some stories about what family caregivers have done after caregiving ends, and then I'm going to share a process that I hope is helpful as you think through what's next for me. We've been talking before the event started, and it's interesting to think about what you've gained because of your caregiving experience in terms of wisdom and insights. And you don't lose those once a caregiving experience ends. They stay with you and they become quite powerful as you think about what's next for you after caregiving ends. So what you've gained in terms of insights, knowledge, perspective, skills, tools, they really will help you as you move into your life after caregiving ends. So I wanted to just share a couple stories about some family caregivers and what they've done, just to give you an idea that you can think expansively about what could be next. So Brandy cared for her mother-in-law. She currently cares for her son. And after her mother-in-law died, she decided that she wanted to really consult and coach family caregivers. So she started her own business. She completed training programs that I offer. What's interesting is she's part of a pilot program that we're developing with a startup to support family caregivers through coaching. So not only is she developing her own business, but she's also creating partnerships to support family caregivers in different ways. And why I tell you that is because, honest to goodness, that would not have been possible probably even 4 years ago. There's so much focus on family caregiving and how to support family caregivers that I find it just amazing to think of the possibilities. And that's why I want you to think about life after caregiving ends in an expansive way. I think about a family caregiver I knew way back when. She was part of an online community I managed, and she used to be very active in our online support groups. And she cared for her husband, and she talked about her life before caregiving began. She lived in a small community, and she only felt comfortable driving within that community's boundaries. So she had certain streets she would stay within when she went for a drive. And after her husband died, she hit the highway and drove across the country to meet other family caregivers she had connected with through my online support groups. Her life expanded because of the courage she gained caring for her husband. She decided the courage would help her hit the highway. So she drove literally across the country. So I think it's interesting. Sometimes we think life's boundaries are small, and yet they can be as big as we want. So Diane cared for her parents, and while she was caring for her mom, she was fired from her job selling jewelry, which she loved. She loved. And she lost her job because she was really struggling with being present at work and managing her mom's increasing care needs. So once she got fired, she started thinking about, well, what else could I do? So she found a job as a direct care worker, a professional caregiver with a home care agency in her community. So she was caring for her mom at home, and then she was also caring for clients in her community. And she moved her way up through that home care agency into a position of now being the trainer for the direct care workers at her agency. So her mom died 3 years ago, and she has really transformed her career because of that caregiving experience. We have a small grant to research direct care workers, and Diane has been helpful in sharing her insights as a direct care worker. And so she was able to receive a stipend for participating in the program and sharing her insights about what it's like right now for direct care workers and home care agencies. So she went from selling jewelry to providing care to now training direct care workers. And she loves it. She loves it. So I also think there could be a loss during caregiving, like a loss of a job that you love. And instead of thinking that's the only job I'll love, she really started to think about, well, what's another job I could possibly love? And she loved caring for her mom. So that helped her think through what are the possibilities. And then she moved up within her agency to now be the trainer. So I mentioned before we started today's presentation that we had a special event this morning called a healing morning to support healthcare professionals and direct care workers with their grief. And Kathy Murray was one of our presenters. She talked about how to identify grief in others, because sometimes we think grief is just someone crying, and it could be someone having a lot of anger, someone just disconnecting. So she helped us see that anger can show up in different ways. So she has really turned an interest in grieving into a small business and a specialty. She also helps in our training program as a mentor for those who are going through our training. And we've recently partnered with an employee benefit, and she's part of the coaches who will support working family caregivers through an employee benefit. And her website is caregiving.com. Then I'll share one other story of one of our training program graduates. So Beth cared for her father, and she was very interested in end-of-life care and how to help family caregivers during their caree's hospitalization. So she developed this brochure for family caregivers to help manage the hospitalization. I was invited to a presentation, a workshop that AARP was sponsoring in New Jersey, but I live in Chicago. I couldn't go. And so I know Beth at that time was living in New Jersey. So I asked her if she wanted to go, and she said yes. So she printed out the brochures that she had created as a resource, and she carried them so that they were visible as she walked through this event. Someone from AARP saw her and said, "Oh my gosh, we need your help." And so she was hired to actually write for AARP. So she was a family caregiver expert, subject matter expert. So for some of the brochures and materials that AARP created. And then she decided she wanted to do a little bit more in terms of structure around her work. So she also works part-time for a company called Senior Link, and she works as a case manager for family caregivers caring for someone receiving services through a Medicaid waiver program. And then she's also going to be a coach in our partnership with Your Care 360, which is the employee benefit. I wanted to kind of give you some ideas and options about what's possible to think through when you are considering what life after caregiving could be like for you. And then I wanted to share a process you could think through that could help you pinpoint, what are my goals? What's my vision? What are my desires? So as you think about your next steps related to after caregiving ends, think about capacity, completion, and zest. So let's get a little more specific. So capacity is around what's possible for you right now. When you think through what's your energy level, how much time do you have, what resources are available to you, and what's the budget. So capacity can change, as you know, as your life changes, as your days change, as your caregiving experience changes. So you could think about capacity today and then revisit capacity in a month, 6 months. So as you map out what could be next, you could think about, well, right now, when I think about what's next, my capacity is this. And then in a month, you could think, you know what, but I think my capacity is this. So capacity changes. And I think that's important to remember because it keeps the possibilities and options open for you. So what's your energy? What's your time availability? What resources can you tap into? And what's the budget? And sometimes you think the budget is nil. The budget is negative. And that could be frustrating. And you could also think, okay, the budget is tight right now, and that's right now. The budget can change, and that's okay. So I like to think about budget right now, but not decide it's the budget forever. Right now, money might be tight, the budget might be tight, and you can still open up the possibility to the budget being more expansive in the future. The other part about budget too, if you decide, you know what, there is something I want to pursue after caregiving ends, and I know what the budget is for it, you could think, you know what? I could start saving even $1 a week toward that goal. And $1 a week will make a difference. And it puts you in that motion of creating what you want. You're committing to it through saving even $1 a week. It makes a difference. And then after caregiving ends, we also think about completion. So what's the work that needs to be completed? So it could be related to closing out a caree's estate. It could be reconciliation around relationships, reconciliation around regrets you may be carrying, closure around your caregiving experience, and releasing the emotions of what has happened. After caregiving ends, we think about it as an experience of grief. Sometimes it's relief, where you have a combination of grief and relief. And what you also want to think about is, what's the completion of the caregiving experience that I can work on? Completion also can relate to, how does your body feel? So you might be exhausted. Your body might hurt. My mom died in August of 2022, and my body hurt probably for almost 4 months after she died. So sometimes what needs to be completed is the healing of your body, especially if you're in a situation where it feels like it's very physically demanding. The truth is, if it's emotionally or exhausting and demanding in those ways, it still can make your body hurt because your stress hurts, right? So if it's emotionally draining, it can feel stressful, and the stress shows up so stress shows up for me in my lower back, and then my lower back just hurts. It could be that it shows up for you in your neck or in migraines. So you'd want to work toward that kind of healing as well. So completion is, how do I close this out? How do I take care of the loose ends as it relates to caregiving? And it's not just the estate. It's you. It's your well-being. It's your regrets. It's your reflections. It's your relationships. Okay. How do you guys feel about completion? I'm curious.
I could say something. Hi, Denise, it's Katrina. I haven't
Hi,
seen you
Katrina.
in so long.
Yeah, good to see you.
My mom passed in April of 2022. So I think we both lost our moms pretty close to each other, it sounds like, Denise.
Yeah, mine died in August. Yeah.
Yeah. But that really, what you said was pretty much mirrored my experience. My mom was a total care, like it was 24/7 care for the last few years, and she was at home with me. But yeah, it was such an interesting time. Like, so many things happened. She was gone. Things need to happen. You know, like you can't avoid that. They have to happen. And being exhausted, like that really, not everybody can take a break. I eventually was able to, but I couldn't right away. It was just I'm still processing it. I think that just that transition time. Now, like, I'm coming up on a year, excuse me, But and I was having this conversation yesterday, actually. I didn't do a celebration of life or anything when she passed because I didn't feel like celebrating then. I did the day that she died at home. I was with her. She died at 2 a.m. She wasn't picked up till 10:30 at night. We did a beautiful day. Like, it was such an amazing day with her that day. And I felt great about that, but I didn't do a ceremony. For me, at that time, I was so exhausted. I want to hear people's stories and love for my mom. And I knew at that time I wouldn't be able to compute it or digest it. So this, now a year out, I feel more complete, and I will do something and enjoy it then. But it was such an interesting time. Everything that you have here, closure, estate, reconciliation, releasing it, and just being with myself, still feeling her presence, just all of it, right? Just, she was away, she's not physically here, but she felt like so much happens, and it can be a magical time. And there's a lot going on. Yeah, I really agree with you, Denise. Beautiful. You always say wonderful things. So yeah, I appreciate it.
I think it's fabulous that you gave yourself the authority to say the memorial service can wait. Because it's exhausting.
I couldn't give anything else. I'd been giving for 7-8 years, just my mom. There was grandma before, like it. So it was just like, okay, I need a minute here. Like, I just need a pause. And what's interesting, and you may have this similar, you and I are often similar in our thinking, or I've noticed when I hear you speak, but so for the first couple months or month, everyone's giving you all this attention, and then it's gone, right? Like, everyone's back to their lives, and me too. Like, we all have to do that. But I like the idea of reconnecting a year later, and maybe reconnecting with these people that I wouldn't have stayed connected with if I'd done all that right then, because I just didn't have the capacity. And yeah, just little details, nuances like that.
Yeah, I think there's something that's so empowering about choice and how we honor someone's life, and remembering that we can add a choice into it so that it feels like it's the right time to truly honor the experience of caregiving in someone's life. It is hard to do that after caregiving ends. It's hard.
You know what, Denise, to that point, actually, and I wouldn't have thought of it unless you said it, it drove me nuts how people were like, oh, you did such an amazing job. All that language. I don't want to hear that right now. Like, we had more than just me being her caregiver for 45 years. We had a relationship, and it didn't start at the caregiving years. Right. So I didn't want to hear that either. Oh, but it's like, I need to actually grieve my mother, not be awarded or praised for being there for. She was there for me for the first 18. I don't know. It was just, I couldn't, it wasn't, I really couldn't hear it then. And I don't know that I can hear it now. And that whole praise thing is so interesting. I mean, I made a choice, and I stuck with, that's what I chose. That was my choice, to be her caregiver. And I didn't do it for praise. I did it because it was the best option for both of us. Was it perfect? No. Is the health system in both of our countries broken? Yes. So there's just, yeah, the more that I hear you say, the more it was such a blur after she passed, because so much happened. Even just hearing you say these things, I'm starting to kind of start to remember, what's been going on for the past 8 months, or wherever we're at now, 9.
And I think it's so important we talk about what happens after the death and how we approach the next steps, so that we don't feel this pressure to conform with what has been done in the past, that we have to have a service right away. After caregiving ends, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
My whole life's different.
Yeah.
Like 180 in a day. And sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think we also want to feel like we're fully present when we have a service that honors our Carrie's life. And that might not be possible the first 2 weeks after caregiving ends. If you would you say it right. I mean, would you say it? You think, of course not. But we can still feel the pressure that it has to happen along a timeline that's been dictated without thinking through what's going to work for me.
Exactly. And even to that point, like I mentioned, mom passed at home and I was with her when she passed. And it was, of course, it was hard. And I'm so glad it was there and it was beautiful and very real. It was a very real and surreal experience at the same time. But my friend, because it happened about 2:30 in the morning, 2:20. And my friend was like, get her picked up at 9:30 in the morning. And it just wasn't landing with me. Like, I've been with my mom for all these years and now I'm just going to get her out of the house why? And the funeral home that I spoke with, they said, whatever her story is, she's having her experience, but I invite you to have your own experience because this is your experience. And I changed everything. And that friend ended up even coming and saying, this was the best idea. I'm so glad we're doing, we had a magic day with mom and we honored her. It was the more that I went in and I hear what I'm hearing you, I think like the more I did make my own decisions around it finally. And for the first time, 100%, because I was always making decisions for me and her. And I did put her first often because if she wasn't doing well, that 100% meant that I wouldn't be. So, they always say, oh, take care of yourself first. I find that really insulting.
Yes.
I never intended to not care for myself, that caregivers aren't set up for success to care for themselves. Right. But yeah, but anyway, to wrap it up, the more I made my own decisions around it, right? And after she was gone that morning, I 100% could. It was that quick. So many nuances I wouldn't have even thought of if you hadn't had this today. So thank you.
I had a client whose mom died in a state where she didn't grow up. And so my client was going to have the service and the burial in her mother's hometown. And so she had organized her mom's body to be flown from where they lived to where the service was going to be. And then it turned out that her mom's body would be on a flight and then a transfer to another flight. And my client could not bear the thought of her mom being transferred from one plane to the other. She didn't trust that it would happen. She didn't trust that her mom's body would be taken care of. So I helped her. She rented a U-Haul and we put her mom's body in the back of the U-Haul and we drove it from Pennsylvania to Maine. Now, her friends thought this was goofy. You can trust the airlines. The airlines will get your mom and where she needs to be when she needs to be. And for my client, she just couldn't because she had had so many experiences during caregiving where that does not happen, where people will say, oh, don't worry, she'll be okay. Well, of course she's not going to be okay. And so for my client, her final act of caregiving was driving her mom to Maine with the body in the back of the U-Haul. Yeah. And so when we pulled up to the funeral home, the director was waiting for us and we just opened up the back and got her mom settled. And because caregiving continues after the death and it just takes a different form, but the caregiving continues. So the last part of this process, so we talked about capacity, completion, and zest. It's thinking through, what is it that I feel excited about now? What's the work? What's the commitment? What's the opportunity that fills me up with energy, that gets me excited, that I get lost in my daydreams about? I often think I love to daydream. And I know I'm in the right work when I daydream about it, when I think, oh, I know what I'm going to do next in my work. And then I daydream about it. So what's your daydream? What are the thoughts that you get lost in? What do you love to talk about? So I mentioned Kathy, who really turned her life's work into supporting those who grieve. She loves to talk about grief. And her idea around supporting those in grief wouldn't necessarily be a traditional career path, but it's her path that works for her. You could think about what's the difference that you want to make. So perhaps in your caregiving experience, there was something that you thought, wow, this is just wrong. I want to right it. I want to make it better. And so that's where your purpose is. So just pay attention to the clues in your day. What are you daydreaming about? What are you talking about? What are you reading about? What are you receiving information about? Those are really good clues about what's zest for you, what energizes you, what feels passionate to you. And it could be that it's completely, has nothing to do with caregiving. It's completely different than caregiving. And that's awesome. As long as it fills you up, it energizes you, that's the zest that you want to receive and then act on. We know that our caregiving experience really helps us think through life's time in a different way. When you've been with someone who has died, you see time in a different way. You think, okay, life does end. I want to use my time in the right way. So when you say or think, wow, I really have a lot of passion about this, pursue it. And then be open about what success about pursuing it is. Sometimes I think people get caught up in success on social media, that it has to be a lot of views, or it has to be viral, or it has to be a New York Times bestseller. Success can be very different, and you get to define what success looks like for you. So when you've created your zest, create your definition of success around it, and don't let someone else create that definition for you. It's yours, so you get to decide what's successful. So what do you guys think about zest?
I could say something to that again.
Oh, okay.
So I've been, lots has happened, but I'm very vocal about when this all happened, anybody that would listen to our story that had that was a researcher or a journalist, and I talked to them, right? And I'm getting pretty concise at narrowing it down. But when you just said, what does success look like? I've thought about this before, and I agree with everything because I don't like doing social media and all those things. It's a block. And I've been doing some caregiving consulting. It just kind of, I haven't even pursued it. It just kind of fell into my lap. And I didn't really have the capacity. I feel like now I could take that on in a real way. I always was like, gosh, who is my mom? Who am I? What did we just go through? Like, what was that? Why did this happen? And from that, it was just, if I can just help one, if one person, if we can help one family, one person, whatever that is, in whatever way it's helpful for them, not even a judgment around what that help looks like. That is success to me. And I was fortunate enough to be part of an article. Actually, I could send it to you, Denise, you might like it, but a big article here came out a few weeks ago in our national newspaper, the Globe and Mail, about caregiving and work. And it was front page and like a big two-page spread, like, oh boy. And that's not ego. It's like, yeah, like we need this attention. Like caregivers need this light. Anyhow, someone found me through my website and sent me a note thanking me but thanking me because it was good for them to know that someone else was out there. That was I'm done. Like, I'm not done, but that was enough, right? To me, that felt like, okay, this is the path. This is it wasn't the front page. It's not the two-page spread. It's not, there's no ego in it. Getting that email and knowing that someone's heart was touched. Yeah. And that they felt, that the empathy, right? Like meeting someone where they felt met, and if that makes sense. Anyway, I'll stop now, but that was my feeling.
So it's interesting because you've had an evolution of your definition of success.
Right.
So we can also be open that our definition of success changes as our work gets more profound or more meaningful, or takes us in a way that we didn't, or to a path that we didn't see.
Great point, Denise.
Yes,
It's true.
Yeah. And
I'm Linda. I have something.
Yes, go for it, Linda.
I don't just strive to survive. I strive to thrive. And I mean now, not when Eric is gone. I mean right now. And so wherever, for instance, on Friday mornings at 9:30 to 11 in my home, I have it's an open invitation, and I send out an invitation on Thursdays to a group of ladies in my area here. And some have never come, but it's a caregivers group. It started in the library, and here comes COVID, and that changed everything. And so now we meet, and some ladies come every single week. Sometimes it's me and my cat, which is just fine. That's just fine. But I find that making my home and myself available is very, very good for me. I find, it says, what's the difference I want to make? I'm making a difference already. I'm making a difference already. And I spend time when I visit my husband. He's at a place called Azura in Kenosha, which is just across the border from me in Illinois. When I go there, I don't go just to visit my sweetheart. I visit everybody, staff, every single person. I know the staff, it's harder to keep track of their names, but the people that live there, I know who they are. And we enjoy. Yesterday, one of the ladies that I always tease her because her name's the same as mine, Linda. And I said, "You're my namesake." She said, "I'm 5 years older than you. Cut it out." I was in a pissy mood yesterday. It was unbelievable to watch. And different people tried different things to deal with her. And I said to Eric, I said, maybe what she needs to do is just take a time out. And Eric said, that's a great idea. And caregiver heard me and said, I think maybe a timeout in your room would be nice for you. What do you think? Oh, the lady disappeared, went to her room, and everything settled. The whole place was like, ah! And when she went in her room, it just kind of boom, 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 down. So it was nice. I made a difference. The conversations going on intrigued me. And I enjoy talking about dealing with people, learning how to deal with people, how to redirect, for instance, is one thing. Is hard. It's hard to do sometimes, especially on a phone. Holy crap. My husband doesn't have them call me very often, but once in a while he does. And trying to get him off the phone is like trying to push a cat down a tree. I mean, it's just almost impossible, but it does work eventually. I'm really grateful. I'm
You know, it's,
grateful for them.
yeah, and it's interesting that you've given us a perspective about where we can make a difference. We can make a
Oh,
huge difference in our neighborhood, in,
yes, yes.
in the block that we live on. So I think social media, I think, has us thinking that it has to be, global and millions, but it's this idea that just in your neighborhood, you can make a difference and give someone a better day. And what a gift to give that. And for you, Linda, you gave the other Linda a better day because she got a timeout. Then you gave everybody within her environment a better day because she took a timeout. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Laughter is another gift that
Yes.
I believe given by God,
Yeah.
is to see the absurdity of life. It is so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
And when Eric is maybe he's having a tough time or something, and I'll reminisce. I remember and tell him about something we did at one point in our relationship, and I'll go ha ha ha, and he joins in, and next thing you know, the endorphins are out and we're having a party.
Yeah.
It
There's
really, really helps. It really
yes.
helps.
Yeah,
He used to
absolutely.
have the cat. In every place he's been in care up until recently, he's had a live cat that lived with him that he cared for as best he could. This place they don't allow live animals, which is fine. So now I've got the cat, and obviously it was my turn for the kitty. I need the cat. He doesn't need the cat. I need the cat. Besides
Yeah.
which, when we walked into his room the other day, he said, "There's a little kitty lives in here." And I said, "Oh, that's neat." He said, "I don't know where that cat is. Must be under the bed." Obviously, he's hallucinating, and I just join in wherever he's at.
Yeah.
And we laugh. We laughed. I said, "Well, cats like to hide." He said, "Yeah, I guess they do." And we went on from there. But I've got the real thing. Your boots.
So I just want to mention a couple other things before we close for today. And it's been really wonderful to connect and share with you guys. We use these caregiving wheels as part of our coach and consultant training. And it's just a way for you to think through, okay, what could be next? And if it's just one word you think of that starts you down the right direction, that can be helpful. These are just words for you to start with. They are not all the words you can think of. But if you think, love, right? So Linda, you're talking about the cat, that's love for you, right? So what's next? It could be love. And then we are open to what the form of love comes to us in. And then it could be healing or peace, or just thinking about what could be fun for me. So I put together a one-pager that helps you think through capacity, completion, and zest. So it's just prompts for you to either journal or talk out or visualize. You could do a visualization board. What are those called? I'm not using the right word.
Vision board.
Vision board.
Yeah, it was
You could
close.
do, yeah. I just went on and on instead of just vision, right? So vision board, but you could have 3 categories to your vision board, right? Or you could have 3 different vision boards. One's capacity, one's completion, and one's zest. And if you do capacity, for instance, you could have it reflect capacity today. And then maybe you think, you know what, but my vision for my capacity in 6 months is this. In a year is this. And it's this idea that it starts you down the path, the right path. So I put these resources together for you in a course on Carrying Our Way, and it's free to join. And the course is called What's Next for Me. So you'll find the one pager, you'll find the wheel in that course. So when you join Carrying Our Way, look for After Caregiving Support, click in through that, and you'll see all kinds of courses, including What's Next for Me. There's a couple other free courses in that section that's called After Caregiving. There's a Beginning Again After Caregiving Ends. So I have a book by that name, and then I created a 6-class course that walks you through how to close out your caregiving experience. And then there's a flashlight camp, which is based on my experience of falling into my work supporting family caregivers. I felt like God turned on a flashlight to show me the way. And so I help you find your flashlight moment in the flashlight camp. And then if you like to journal, there's a writing for healing after caregiving ends course. And then if you're interested in taking a training with me and you want to start out small, the advocate course is $30. It's an hour, it's an archive. You can watch it and then take the exam, and then you're certified all in about an hour and a half. And so that's one of the courses as well. And then if you want to schedule time to talk out your next steps with me, there's my calendar link. And I'm actually going to stop sharing just for a minute so that I can copy and paste it into the chat room. So if you'd like to connect with me, let's see if I can. I'll give you the link to schedule time with me, and I'll put it in the chat room. Okay, so what's next for you guys today?
I have to work. That's okay.
You got to pay the bills, right? That's okay. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I'm grateful to have work.
Yes, there you go. That's absolutely correct. I'm also going to put a link to Caring Our Way, which is our community. Again, it's free to join. And we have courses during and after caregiving. And you'll find the courses that I just mentioned in the after caregiving section.
What am I doing? This is a rest day. I am doing laundry, but that's actually doing it. So but it's a rest day.
And we are having a snow day, which means it's an excellent rest day.
Right. Well, I'm in Zion, so I'm in Illinois. Yeah, we're getting snow. It's about time.
Yeah, I'm just right by O'Hare.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Carmen, thank you so much for being here today. Oh, I love that you're going to a bookstore. Oh, how nice. How nice. Boy, that's relaxing.
Yeah.
That's relaxing to connect with creativity and art in a bookstore. Yeah. Okay, so feel free to keep me posted about what's next for you. If you join the course, what's next for me, you can post updates. Let us know how you're doing. Katrina has a question.
I just have a question, and you may have said it, but I was like clicking all over and I probably tuned out. But what are the dates for the course here? Am I missing that?
For the dates for what course?
For the course that you were just speaking of?
The what's next for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no dates. So all it is there's worksheets in it. And then I post this recording in it, so you can watch the recording again if you like.
I'm there.
But I put all the material that we talked about today into a course.
I
So
get it.
you don't have to sign up to take to sign up to join me for another date.
Be
It's all
somewhere.
there.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all there. It's all there. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Sorry, I missed that part. Thank you.
Oh, no, that's
so
okay.
much.
That's okay. Okay, I think we did it. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks, Denise. You're amazing. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Katrina. You are too. It was so good to see you. Gosh, wow.
Been a long time since
I
seen
know,
you.
gosh.
Yeah.
This makes me think time goes by so slowly and yet so quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Okay.
Thanks, Denise.
Okay. Bye-bye.